Hey there, observers. This is Taiwan Observer, and we've got another episode of Chatty Bao Bao just for you.
That's right, that's a brand new Chatty Bao Bao Season 2 with Keoni Everington on the back. Well, look at this. Okay, hold on. I think I'm gonna do the man a favor. Let me untie him and get his polo mienba out of his face.
All right, yes, we've kidnapped Keoni Everington to ask him a couple of questions. We're going to talk about reporting in Taiwan, and we're going to find out exactly what is going on here in Taiwan.
Nasty.
All right, thank you very much for joining us today, everybody out there. Right now, we are getting ready to interview Mr. Keoni Everington. All right.
That's right. And guys, we want to just first tell you about a few changes in our program. So, one of the first changes that we're doing in Season 2 is we're going to start off the interview in Mandarin. So this is for all of you Mandarin learners or Mandarin speakers. The Mandarin language that we are going to be using is not going to be very difficult. So, it's going to be good for your listening if you're learning it, and then it's going to be good for people that don't really speak English. But then, for you guys that don't understand Mandarin, don't touch that dial. Don't go and do something else. Later on, we're going to switch back to English, and Vincent is going to carry on and have the conversation in English.
Yes, guys, just a few minutes of Mandarin questions. Very easy, so if you speak even a little bit of Mandarin, you'll understand what we're talking about. This is the beginning of Season 2. As Joseph said, we've got big changes. One of the biggest changes that we've made is that we're only going to be doing this every 2 weeks now to try and bring you a better quality of show, for sure. So, if you guys have any suggestions, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about the show and what you think we can do better. But anyway, right now we're here chatting to Keoni Everington. So, let's get right into it, and Joseph is going to start out with a couple of the Mandarin questions. Let's go.
That's right. Okay, Keoni first. 欢迎我们会说国语的观众们。我的第一个问题就是，我要说，今天我们的贵宾是 Keoni Everington， 然后 Keoni 你有没有中文名字？
花无节，中华的华，无数的无，杰出的杰，李连杰的杰，你知道李连杰 ？Jet Li。
所以这是武术的。
Big Jet Li fan, big Kung Fu fan.
所以这个就是武术的名字。
是。
所以你的灵感是从武术的影片来的。
是。
好了解，哇，好酷啊！你的名字好酷啊。好，那你最喜欢在台湾的是哪里？
其实我后来想到澎湖，我觉得澎湖很好玩。我喜欢那边的风景，我喜欢那边的海滩，还有他们的海鲜。然后那边人比较少，所以我觉得那个是很适合度假的地方。
哦，了解。澎湖我还没有去过澎湖。对，澎湖就是你们都知道，就是离台湾就是一些小岛，你需要什么？你需要坐船还是坐飞机才可以到那个地方，非常好玩的。然后还有一个问题，台湾的食物还习惯了吗？
你说生活？
不，食物。
习惯了。刚开始没有习惯，因为以前就在北京，但是过了2年差不多以后就开始习惯，各方面都开始习惯。那个气候也不一样，那边那个北京很干燥，这里很潮湿，所以我花很多时间慢慢的适应这里的气候，这里的食品什么的。
好，了解。所以你之前是北京、中国，好了解。然后你搬家到台湾，哇，你国语说的真的很棒哦。那你住台湾？
还差10万8千里，还差10万8千里，这是一般般。
了解。那你住台湾多久
？4年，1、2、3、4的4。
Wow, so you sit only 4 years?
对。
Wow. Okay. You guys understood that? 他住台湾4年而已. He lived in Taiwan for 4 years only. So, but the question goes, how have you ended up in Taiwan?
中文，用中文回答是吗？
不是，现在你可以变成英文。
Oh, English.
Yeah,
Okay,
you can just say that in English. Guys, let's switch to English now. Okay, this is our segue to English. So, how have you ended up in Taiwan?
Well, I have 4 major reasons why I came out here. First of all, my grandmother is Chinese, so it was searching for my roots. In Chinese, we say 顺根. And we believe we have some relatives here in Taiwan as well as southern China. So I've kind of been trying to look for them, but it's difficult. And to learn Mandarin is a big passion of mine was languages, and I wanted to master Mandarin. And Kung Fu, I wanted to train with masters here in Taiwan. And work to develop my career here. So now I work in journalism, and that I've worked in a lot of different fields here in Asia, and so that was another big reason why I came out here. Another aspect was acting. There's a lot of acting opportunities as well. So those are the different reasons why I've come out here.
Oh, I understand. Okay.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I think that a lot of people in Taiwan know your name, but I don't think many people actually know anything about you. And that's exactly what we wanted to do here today. We wanted to get a little bit of knowledge about you out there so that maybe people can understand a little bit better what it is that Taiwan News is doing out here, and what you personally are interested in accomplishing with that. So thank you very much for joining us on the show here today.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. I also got a question. Did you always want to be a journalist, or did it somehow grow on you, or was it your calling?
I've always been a news junkie. I like to mention that one of my ancestors founded the Nashville Banner. My grandfather was a big newspaper reader, and we always talked about the news. I wrote like newsletters for I just liked doing it, writing newsletters when I was in high school, and then I wrote my first article for Asian Week, and that article was about an ancestor of mine who was the first Asian American to try out for professional baseball teams in the early 1900s. So he played with people like Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and Ty Cobb. He's got autographed photos of all those guys, and so that was my first article that I wrote for a newspaper. Later, I started working at the World of Chinese in Beijing, and that's how I've continued to be in journalism since then. I really got into it full blast when I went there. I worked there for 4 years. Then I worked at Central News Agency here in Taipei, and now I've been here at Taiwan News for 2 years now too. So I've been doing journalism for about 8 years now.
So would you say that reporting is your true calling?
Yeah, I definitely think so, because I have a real passion for it. It's something I really enjoy. Because a lot of other jobs I just it was just another job. It's like a day job, something I had to do. But this, I like to do it like whenever I have a chance. Like when I'm off work, I still do a lot of writing. I do a lot of reporting. Anything comes up, like there's a fire down the street, like I'll go down there and take pictures and interview people. If there's a big earthquake, I'll go ahead and report it like right away, even though maybe it's a Saturday night or late at night. Doesn't matter, because I'm very passionate about it. So it's something I really enjoy and like doing.
I see. How many articles do you write per month then?
Yes. I estimate roughly about 120 articles at this point.
A month. Did you guys imagine that? 120 articles per month. That's quite a few articles.
Yeah,
guys.
that's a lot. That's a lot.
That's quite a lot. So just for this reason, I think.
So that means 4 articles a day on average, guys.
That's what I calculated. Keone churns out like at least 4 articles per day.
Out of 7 days out of a week.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's probably five articles a day if you're not.
That's right. I'm doing like 5 or 6, maybe even more sometimes per day. It depends though, but more or less, yeah, 5 or 6, something like that. Yeah.
All right then. Okay, guys. So I think we're ready for the ride. But first of all, I wanna give you a special drink that we're having today. This is apple mint by. Could you pronounce it for me? Very nice.
Timbark.
A Timbark drink. All right. So this is for Keone. Very special European drink. Apple mint. It's just hitting Taiwan's market right now. So this is for you, sir.
Oh, thank you very much.
Pull it out and then pull it up, and then.
Pull it. Oh.
I was talking about the drink.
I see, okay.
All right then. So
Great.
everyone, let's buckle up.
Cool,
I'm gonna
okay.
buckle you up.
This is gonna explode.
Thank you very much.
Oh, nice.
Very nice and funky.
Apple mint.
Apple mint. I hope you
Tasty.
enjoyed it.
Let's see.
I'm buckling myself up. Let's roll for a little ride, and then we're gonna.
Wow, apple and mint together.
You like it?
Yes.
Excellent.
It's very refreshing.
Hey, there you go. A little plug for you, Timbark.
Yeah, Timbark. That's it. Okay, guys. So what now? We've got the basic questions behind us, and I think now we're gonna go for a little ride. Where we're gonna end up today is Mayur's Indian Kitchen number 6. Not far from here. On just close to Badelu. We're gonna give you the exact address in a description later, and we're gonna probably, when we arrive there, gonna give you the address. We're gonna dox Mayur, and if you guys want to come for some Indian food, that's a very good place to go. Now I think we are switching on to Mr. Vincent, and you have got some more questions for Keone. So now,
Yes, I do. I've got some questions for you. Here, well, first I wanted to talk about was, and somebody just wrote on the screen here, Sam Reynolds asks, what is aggregation and what percentage is original reporting? Well, what we wanted to ask you was, yesterday when we had our pre-interview, we talked a little bit about exactly what it is you guys do at Taiwan News, and you said that there are two major things that you guys do. You do spot reporting,
Right.
and then you do investigative journalism as well, right?
Right. That's right. So I think a lot of people don't understand journalism itself. They see Hollywood movies and they'll see a film about a intrepid reporter, and he'll spend an entire year working on one article. But that's not really how it normally works. It's usually what we're normally doing is posting news about that day, and that's spot news stuff. Whatever comes in over the wire, or we get a tip, any kind of breaking news, and so it's whatever's known at that moment, which later might change or more information comes in later. But it's not going to be 2,000 words of text. It's going to be short, quick, to the point. That's a big part of what we do.
So that's most of
Yeah.
the informative stuff, like when are
Yeah.
events, what new regulations there are coming out from the government, stuff
Right.
like that. Is that right?
Right. That's right. And also, I want to emphasize that we do hard and soft. There's hard news and there's soft news. It's all news. It's based on factual events. We always list the sites, the sources, so that it's true, whatever it is. So it's not fake. But some of it is more lighthearted and not so serious. Other things are extremely serious and very important. And so I like to do a mixture of both. The soft news to kind of draw people in, and then the hard news, hopefully keep them and inform them and cover important things. But things like photo of the day, it's just a fun thing to mix up the day, so that, because we'll have probably 40, 50 articles. So one interesting photo of the day, I think it's pretty harmless, that sort of thing. Just kind of mix it up. We do investigate things too. We interview people. We go to press conferences. We cover it. We do everything. We talk to the police about if there's some kind of, like when it came to the Yonghua murder case, I interviewed dozens of people. The thing is that a lot of the people, the sources that we used, we could not list their names to protect their identity. But that was a big thing. I think a lot of people don't understand. We talked to a lot of different police agencies. Sometimes people gave us evidence, and then we would give it to the police, and then we would report it after that. But they would emphasize to make sure that we protected the sources, because there are definitely some people that are very worried about getting killed, actually, for exposing what they knew. So, and if there was any trace or clue at all of who they were, even though we didn't mention their name, they could be in serious danger. So that was an example where we had a lot of sources, but there's a lot of people we couldn't mention their names or give that much detail that some people want, you know. So that's an example. But we do a lot of different ways of gathering news. So I mean, it might be through email. A lot of it is phone calls. We have contacts in a lot of different government agencies, police departments, all sorts of different organizations. I have lots of contacts, whether it's among foreigners here or Taiwanese here. And there's, you know, now that we have social media, sure, a lot of times I'll communicate with people through Facebook, but private, you know, interviews basically. Maybe we'll do an interview in Skype. But I'll still, sometimes we go in person, or we'll meet in a coffee shop, or I'll do video interviews, or I might use my phone and just, you know, do a phone interview. You know, people have different ways that they are willing to be mentioned. Maybe they don't want their name mentioned. Maybe their name is, or just their first name. Their face is okay, or don't show their face. You know, everybody has a different thing about what they're willing to, you know, how much information they're willing to give. But we try to normally, you know, if we're mentioning a source, then their name, their age, their nationality, their occupation. But people, you know, some people just, certain things they're willing to mention, and other things they're not, you know.
So most of the time you guys are basically doing what exactly do you guys do mostly? Spot news, or is it the hard-hitting stories?
Well, it's both. I mean, because those can be the same thing, but I mean, of course, spot news is generally, it's just, okay, there was a car crash today. You know, there was a fire in this place. This person shot that person. Things like that. Of course, there's a lot of it is that. But we do also cover serious political things. The thing about politics is we don't cover so much local politics. We have a certain stance that we have politically, but then we still also try to be neutral. So we're actually pretty hands-off as far as the election goes right now. We more focus on cross-strait politics because there's a lot more interest among our readers in the cross-strait relationship as opposed to local political issues. So that's a big reason why we don't cover it as much, the political side. It's simply just people aren't really that interested as far as the average reader. If it's something consequential, monumental, important, we will cover it. I kind of say that we're Taiwan news, no stone unturned news is kind of what we are. To answer your question, we pretty much actually cover everything that is salient in Taiwan in terms of news. There's very few stories that we didn't cover. So to answer your question, we actually try to cover, we're very ambitious, we try to cover everything. And sometimes that's difficult and challenging to, you know, to give maybe everything 100% justice. And so that's why some things we maybe cover less, like I said, like local politics, so we're not covering what's happening in the political race in Taichung or whatever, you know what I mean? Like it's the smaller kind of stuff we don't cover that, you know.
So what kind of, when it comes to hard news, soft news, spot news, and long-form journalism, what do you see your guys' like role in the news here in
well,
Taiwan?
yeah, and that's another thing. Yeah, I didn't mention long-form journalism is more like something like the New Yorker or something. It's a magazine where somebody's like spent maybe a month or two or a few months like writing an article. We're not a magazine. We don't do long-form journalism so much. It's more day-to-day, or maybe something that we've spent, you know, a week or two, something like that, you know. So we're not doing these like because that's not really the way most news sites work. You know, they're not normally doing super duper long stuff like that because most of the readers aren't really reading stuff that long, and then it's not our mission really to do those sort of things. So that's a big difference that I think a lot of people understand. Like, well, this article's like, you know, it's not covering every single aspect. But the thing about it is, again, because it's spot news, there's only so much that can be covered. Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. Well, you know, planes came, they bombed Pearl Harbor. so many people died. You know, that's the kind of, but we wouldn't talk about the plans behind, like who was behind the planning of the attack. You know, like every little tiny minutia, like we wouldn't get into that because that's something that would take forever to do, and then, you know, a much smaller group would be interested in reading that, you know.
Yeah. So talking about exactly that, when it comes to like your guys' resources there at Taiwan News, I know that maybe you guys are running on a pretty small crew. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So that's another reason why we can only spend so much time on some certain story, unless there's a really big interest, and then we will spend a lot of time on it. You know, so it depends on what it is. But yeah, we have to kind of pick our battles as far as what we're going to cover. And yeah, we have really a very small team, but we're able to do amazing amount with such a small team. And so, yeah, that's a challenge. And but we've been able to do a lot of really amazing things, considering. And so we've been able to become the largest, most read English news site in Taiwan since I joined Taiwan News.
Yeah. So what I did when I did some research, I found out that you guys are getting like well over 1 million hits a month. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, well over. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And it's much more than when I first started out. It's probably like 10 times what it was before, at least. And the same thing with social media.
Yeah.
There wasn't much of a social media presence before. It was like 15,000 on Facebook, and it's now over 100,000. For example, I think Twitter we had like maybe 50, and now we're at like 7,000 or so.
Oh, that's good.
So we've like, yeah, I've really helped them grow through the new website. SEO was a big thing. I have a lot of experience with that. Social media, articles that are compelling. So the headline is something that draws people in because it's something that they can relate to and they're interested in. Images that are also appealing and attractive, but we always have permission. We find, you know, we ask the person, or we use sources that we have permission to use from, such as CNA or AP, that sort of thing. And then the content itself, there's a payoff, you know. So it's not clickbait, because inside is actually what I'm advertising. What I'm saying in the headline is what is in the article, and so I give them everything that I promised.
Yeah.
And then I try to give them some treats, like, you know, interesting photos, maybe some interesting videos, so a variety of things that are interesting once they get inside. And then I also try to help inform and educate people. So, for example, so if whatever the source is, like a report on Taiwan being the highest quality of living in the world, I'm going to give the source, the link to the original report. You know,
yeah,
that sort of thing. I'm always going to do that. And
yeah, I noticed a lot of news agencies these days just forego putting the original report link in there, and I appreciate when people do that. But we moving on from that, talking about getting those hits and getting people to be more interested in the website. You told me yesterday that you guys had a very interesting top 10 articles list.
Oh, okay, sure. That's a fun.
Right?
Well, what this list is, the most read articles on Taiwan News over the past 11 months. So since January till now, what were read the most. I'm listing the ones that I wrote, and most of them are my articles. I'm saying, as far as the top 10 goes. There are some other random things like lottery.
Yeah.
The winning lottery number, so, you know, I'm not going to mention that stuff. It's silly. So the first thing was the tomb of legendary Chinese general Cao Cao found. And I did a little research into this, you know, thinking about why on earth is that such a huge story. And I told this to a friend of mine who's an actor in China. He's the most famous foreign actor. He goes by Cao Cao. And so I said, hey, look, man, they found your tomb. And he's like, they find it every year. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, that's like the big story every year. And so I looked into it, and they found the same thing in 2009, but there were a lot of skeptics, and then
Oh,
they
yeah.
found evidence again in like 2016, and then more evidence in 2017, and then this year they feel like they got the smoking gun, like we can really prove it, you know. And
this
so
Cao Cao guy, this is this guy that this Mandarin proverb comes from. 说到曹操就到, right? Which means like talking of a devil.
nice.
Ah,
That's the one, right?
and he
You know that
appears,
one, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Talk
because
of
he
the
was
devil
like
and
a
he appears.
formidable general, and like he was
Very.
like wreaking havoc in China, and like people were really fearing him, and like whenever they spoken about him, he would be there to cause more mayhem.
And you know,
Like
it's
my
a
story.
serious archaeological find. I mean, if it really is him, you know, that's actually, you know, one of the greatest finds in history. So I think that's why so many people were excited about it. And I was one of the first to write about it in English. So that's why. In fact, if you search that Cao Cao tomb found, like I'm #1 on Google, because
Oh, yeah.
again, I emphasized SEO when we constructed the website. I went into the code and make sure, because I have experience coding. I was doing that before I got into journalism, and so
wow.
I was able to properly code it, so it's really maxed out for SEO. But like I said, we have a payoff. We're not clickbait. We actually have what people are looking for. Okay, so British man beaten by 10 Chinese in Cambodia for having Taiwan
What's that?
tattooed on his forehead.
I think this this guy, we know him pretty well, Taiwan observers.
Yes,
We were the ones to break the first story about him when he tattooed Taiwan on his forehead.
Hey, Mr. Hey, Portsmouth boy.
So yeah, when he tattooed Taiwan on his forehead, like the whole island went nuts, and they were
Yeah.
like, "Oh my God, look at this guy."
We knew about it 24 hours prior to like
Yeah.
the newspaper.
Oh yeah, you
Yeah.
actually gave me the lead on that, the tip on that one.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right. As far as that when he first got his tattoo,
yeah.
and then like before that, he had threatened to kill me.
Oh yeah, he did.
Several
But then
times.
he apologized later, and then
He threatened to kill me several times.
he's threatened to kill you too, huh?
Yeah,
Oh,
several
okay. So
times.
we're like part of the same club. Okay, that's great.
So there we go.
He's the only person that's threatened to kill me
Yeah,
like
but I
publicly
follow
like that.
grudges.
Oh yeah, but
Yeah.
I think
Anyway.
I think that guy is now in.
You know,
Vietnam
maybe
or
we're
something.
not gonna disclose what
I think
he
he's
is.
I think he's now in Vietnam or something like that, but we don't know.
I don't know
made his
right
way
now.
across the Asian landscape, and now is in some town somewhere. So if you guys, if
Some
you guys,
town somewhere.
Found somewhere.
if you guys ever hear anything more about him, hey, maybe you can let us know.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
wanna hear about
I mean, basically what happened was he was in this bar in Sihanoukville, Cambodia, which is like total BFE Cambodia, if you guys know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Pretty rural, I guess, backwater kind of place. And he goes to this bar, and he had a hat on, but then he takes the cap off, and it says Taiwan in, you know, traditional characters in, you know, calligraphy. And a bunch of Chinese guys say, "Oh, Taiwan, 中国," you know, Taiwan, China. And he said, "Boo, Taiwan, Taiwan." And then it just, you know, then all this vicious, horrible fight broke out.
And then the police got involved.
Yeah.
Right.
I learned my lesson with that one, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, they try to force him to change the story, and he did at one point just to get out of Cambodia alive. And I was willing to also change the story just to save his life if necessary. But then I was going to write a scathing piece about how they forced it once he got out. Fortunately, I didn't have to go there, although he had to make a false confession video and all this stuff, and just to get out.
Yeah.
And, but at least he did get out with his life, and you know, it was just it was stressful for a little while there, but fortunately he survived. Yeah, because I would have felt horrible.
That
You know.
was,
Yeah, yeah.
That was very interesting story in a foreign community.
And it got huge because I had the exclusive on it. I had the exclusive on the photos and his video and all the information. And you know, he continued to communicate with me until he was in prison. When he was in the police station, he couldn't do that. But I think maybe even then he was a little bit. And I was just telling him, I'll just do whatever they tell you to do. Yeah, yeah.
We're getting
anyway.
a tip from Michael Frankhauser about the placement of the microphone.
Let's see. What was the next top story?
Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah. Tsunami alert added to cell phone warning system. That one, you know, I think people in Taiwan are really afraid of tsunamis.
Wasn't that story from 2017?
This was from, I'm pretty sure. Well, maybe, I don't know. I mean,
No,
this
I think
for
that
this
was from
year.
this year. I'm
I think it was.
pretty
Yeah, it was this year because that was another thing. There was another thing before that. Yeah, but is a real fixation with that. But it's kind of funny because I think that really the way Taiwan is laid out, I don't think it's that vulnerable to tsunamis actually. Because there's not a lot of flat land, and you know, it's so mountainous.
Yeah, everything's on a mountain.
Yeah.
Everything's on a mountain, that's right.
It means the beaches suck because, you know, they're just like a sheer cliff and then water, you know,
Yeah.
that sort of thing, or just like gravel or something.
Yeah.
So, but it's good because it's harder to invade, and it's the tsunamis are not so prevalent, you
There
know.
was a big tsunami in like, what was it, 17th or 16th century.
In
And
Taiwan?
In Taiwan, yeah.
Interesting.
Well, a few actually, but yeah, that's a different story.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it could happen, I'm sure. Yeah, for sure.
And then,
Yeah.
how about the Hualien earthquake? I know that was a huge deal. That was because that was
Yeah.
that was a huge deal for us as well. Like when we broke the news about the Hualien earthquake, I think we were the first one in Taiwan to have to gather all the images from online and put them up. And that I think was our biggest story to date.
Oh, yeah.
Those images that we found.
That was crazy. It was huge.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, my wardrobe was like dancing around. I mean, it's like, okay, this is a big one, and it was like 11 at night, something like that, and so the office was closed. So this is an example where I just do it. You know, I mean, I'm the one that decided, okay, I want to cover this thing, and so I reported on it right away. We worked together on it. I worked with you guys. And, you know, we got up everything we could as fast as we could. I got it up pretty quick. I got up in like, I think a couple minutes, something like that. And I was we were the first to cover it in English. And so, whoosh, you know, it just exploded. It just exploded. And I mean, it was because a really bad earthquake, a lot of, you know, injuries and, you know, horrible devastation. And the next morning, I'm on international TV with
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to talk about. Because we were contacted, because we were one of the first to break it, we were contacted by a lot of news agencies from all over the world asking us for to do a couple of interviews. So I was actually on Radio New Zealand and on TRT World. That's the Turkish news station.
Radio television.
Yeah, Turkish radio television. And then there's also on the Australian media reached out to us, New Zealand media reached out to us, Turkish media reached out to us, and we even got asked to be on a few other international type news shows, but only a few of them. But we only accepted a few because we just didn't have time, and we
didn't want to really develop into that, and we didn't really want to like take advantage of the tragedy to promote ourselves or whatever. But like when people approached us from this TRT thing, then I since you were busy with the other radio station, I just quickly talked to those people, and then we just carried on with them because they needed they needed the thing to be covered, so we helped them out. But that was just purely to help out fellow journalists. But then we didn't want to like take advantage of the whole situation.
Yeah, I mean, same here. You know, I also had Radio New Zealand in Australia. They also contacted me. I interviewed with one of them, and the Al Jazeera was the big one because it was their international station. It was live, and it was really out of nowhere because they called me up and they just wanted to ask some information, and then they wanted to call me again and ask me some more information. Okay, so I'm on my little HTC smartphone, and I think we're going to just go ahead and put you on the air. Like, what? On the air, huh? What? Let's see your phone. Like, okay, hold up your phone. I'm like, okay. And so I'm just sitting at the desk, and I'm just like, holding the phone up to myself. And they're like, okay, tilt it up a little higher. Hold it there. Don't move it. I'm like, but that's my arm. You know, like, so I just hold my arm like that for like an hour or something. Because then they did their little spiel with other episodes. Because I could hear the audio. I could hear they're covering like other stuff or whatever. And then they start covering the Hualien quake, but it's talking to other people. And they're like, and now we have Keoni Everington from Taiwan News. And okay, give us the latest death toll update. And they wanted all this stuff, you know. And it was really crazy because I'm just sitting there in this little meeting room by myself with this little phone in front of me, you know, and I'm just like broadcasting to the whole planet, you know. So that was pretty wild.
Yeah, luckily we had a studio and we had a proper setup there.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so we
had a studio, but I didn't know that this was happening.
Oh yeah.
So I didn't have time to go to the studio. They're just like, we're gonna go live in 30 seconds. You have 30 seconds. Like what?
My first studio that I broadcasted from was my storage room. And then the next day we went to our normal studio and then we broadcasted from there twice, right? Didn't we? Yeah. Hey boys, how far are you with those articles? Which article is it?
We're just talking about the next one. So what's the next one
well,
on
this
list?
one we can go.
But that's number not a 10.
We can skip this one. I mean, Pokemon Go event coming to Tainan, Taiwan. But anyway, people are obsessed with Pokemon, and it's really big on the internet. And I mean, it's a surefire hit because it's just a lot of people are actually really obsessed with Pokemon. I mean, they really are. I mean,
yeah. If you were out on the singles day and you were trying to get some deals on singles day, actually one of the best selling on Sunday, this past Sunday was singles day, and the best selling item on the list, the third best selling item, were actually Pokemon Go accessories.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because people are still really into Pokemon Go. Did you see 500? I don't even know how many people showed up to Tainan, but they made 1.5 billion NT dollars in Tainan from the festival when the people showed up.
People, I think it was 500,000. It was originally supposed to be 200,000, and it ended up being about 500 or 600,000. It was like maybe about triple what they had anticipated. It was that massive. Yeah, so it was really huge. I mean, people were really, and people came from all over the world too. It became an international thing. I mean, there were a lot of foreigners that went to it.
Phenomenal. There's a little park outside of my house, and like every now and again they throw some rare Pokemon then, and it's mostly inside on a Sunday whenever I've got a day off, and I drive to my garage, and there's at least every time 30, 40, 50, sometimes up to 100, 120, 150 people, most of them are middle-aged, trying to catch that Pokemon, Everyone's got at least 2 phones, 3 phones is absolute minimum.
And there's
6.
a grandpa that has 15 or 20 now, something like that. It's more every day, and he gets in international news.
Really?
You know about the grandpa, right?
Yeah, I know about the grandpa. There was a granny with 17.
Oh, was a granny giving him his money run for his money, huh? Interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've covered the grandpa guy a few times. Yeah.
He just keeps adding more and more phones.
It just gets more and more insane.
Yeah, the guy had something like 11 phones to begin with, and now he's got 15 or 16 phones, and he just keeps buying more phones, and I think that's really funny. But anyway, let's move on to the next thing that's big in Taiwan at the moment. What about some of the more quirky things? Like, how about that one about the cousin wives?
Oh yeah, that's the next one. Yeah, Taiwanese blogger posts steamy images of nude wife, reveals she's his cousin. And it turns out, I mean, he's a fairly well-known blogger, and then they went to Japan, and bloggers, they cover their trip and stuff. They went to a hot spring in Japan, and she was nude, and his wife, and he posted some fully nude photos of her, and she's very voluptuous, very buxom, and but the thing is that the weirdest thing is that he said, oh yes, and she's my cousin, and the thing is, it's not a 5th cousin, this is 1st cousin, yeah, and it's illegal in Taiwan.
And then that's why they got married in Hong Kong or something like that, right?
They got married overseas.
Yeah.
So, but he's admitting all this, in his blog. So that's pretty crazy. He's admitting to committing this incest, crime. But it really captured people's imagination. That particular article. Yeah, I had to actually like take off the cover image because it was too steamy, and it seemed to be drawing too many people in. Yeah. But anyway.
And then along. Hey guys, check out that. We're almost at the place we're supposed to be going.
The next thing I did was 10 of the best souvenirs to bring back from Taipei. That was another top one, and that's one that I'd spent a lot of time on, and I knew that it would do well. And what we call evergreen article. And so what it means is that it's always green. It's something that people always are going to want to look at, you know. And if you type in top souvenirs from Taipei in Google, you're going to see my article, and then you're going to see like top souvenirs from Japan or Thailand or any other country. It's something that people want to know, and Taiwan, it's one of the things that Taiwan really undersells itself on, and I was trying to help Taiwan because I think this is something that they should do more of, and what tourists want. They want things that they can bring back to their friends and family to show, oh look, I was in Taiwan and I got this really cool thing. You know, and so I was trying to help them out with that, and I listed places where people can get these things, and one of the big ones that took me a long time to discover was that National Handicrafts Center, if you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't know about that, but actually it has most of the things that you're looking for as far as souvenirs goes. Because, you know, a big part of our readership is people overseas. In fact, you know, we're trying to grow that, and it's growing very rapidly. And those are the things that they're interested in is travel. They're looking at food and scenic places to go to. And so that's another piece. That's another thing that we cover. So that's not spot news. That's not hard or soft news. It's, you know, traveling and we cover things, you know, about hiking in different mountains that are and different trails and different deals. You know, whether it's to a certain island or, you know, covering a certain thing about the high-speed rail, a certain incentive right now, and, you know, airlines, let's say, like, well, Viet, what is it called? Viet Air, Viet Jet, what is it called?
Viet Jet?
Viet Jet is what it's called. That's like 2 in 1 because it's cool that people are interested. Okay, I can fly from Hanoi to Taipei or whatever. But then there's always also that thing about their sexy stewardesses, you know, because there's always news about that. There's always, you know, controversial and kind of fun, you know, slightly more soft newsy.
Awesome, awesome. So let's move on from the top stories at Taiwan News, and let's talk a little bit about some interesting goings on that has happened to you guys at Taiwan News.
Yes.
So one of the things I'm interested to talk about is the sex offender that you guys wrote those articles about, coming after you, trying to get you guys, basically.
Yes. We learned a lot of lessons from that, and that was basically what happened was this tourist from Canada. So the thing is, he's just a tourist. He's only supposed to be in Taiwan for maybe a week or two.
On a tourist visa.
He's on a short-term tourist visa, but he was only here, I don't know, a very short time, and he sexually assaulted 2 women in one day. The first woman, he started talking to her, and then he started brushing her hair. She's like, "Don't touch me!" And they get an argument, and he kicks her in the butt.
What?
And then he runs away.
And she was a reporter, am I right?
She was a reporter, yes, that's right. And then, what a coincidence, you know? That's crazy, just to start out with. The first one that you go after is a reporter. You know, what are the odds of that? I don't know.
But not only was he like, so then after that he sort of had a vendetta against you guys.
He did, that's right. And, you know, the second victim was this voluptuous woman that was a student, and then he waited for her to walk past him, and then he rubbed her breast with his arm because he pretended like he was stretching. And I'm mentioning that because, you know, we covered the story. You guys covered the story. Philip covered the story. Like several different people covered the story. But then Philip warned me. It's like, this guy's like, he's on the hunt. Like he's contacting all the news agencies, trying to get them to take the stuff down. He's trying to kind of intimidate them and trying to scare them to like take it down. And some of the Taiwanese news agencies, they're like, oh gosh, this foreigner, we don't understand what he's saying. Okay, we'll do whatever he says, you know. So he'd already been to a couple of them. And what happened to us is that he just suddenly shows up in our meeting room. He had told the security guards, oh yes, I have an appointment with Keoni Everington. He didn't have an appointment with me. I didn't know he was coming.
Yeah.
So that was quite intimidating. In fact, I didn't know what was going on until I'm in the meeting room with him face to face.
Oh my God.
So now I've got to like deal with the situation because I don't know like how dangerous he is or how like unhinged he is, and he looked very agitated. And he looked like he had perhaps some mental health issues. And he had scars on his face, and he looked like a pretty rough guy, actually.
But given it kung fu.
But I got my kung fu skills, so I'm like,
Background,
okay,
yeah.
if I got to do it, I'll do it. But I mean, hopefully, it doesn't go there.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah. And
But
so-
yeah, talking about that guy in particular, he also contacted us. He was very angry with us about sharing, just for sharing the article
Yeah.
and then he was telling us all sorts of weird things, and then he actually told us at one point he told us that he was going to we were going to pay the ultimate
Ultimate.
price.
Wow.
Exactly,
He tried-
that's it.
See, I think because I was like bigger than him and stuff, he didn't talk to me like that, but he was
Yeah.
still trying to intimidate me. But I'm like, yeah, you're not going to intimidate me because I can definitely beat you up. But anyway, I mean, I was trying to just keep him calm and be very diplomatic when I talked to him. I mean, I don't know who I'm dealing with here. You know, it was actually pretty intimidating. It's a little bit, you know, unnerving because you just don't know. This guy just comes off the street and he's assaulted a couple people. You know. So it's kind of disconcerting to say the least. But I kept a cool head, and you know, I told him, look, you know, he said, you know, can you guys take down the photos of me and my name? And I said, well, I need to talk to the senior editor. He's in Japan right now, but when he comes back, I'll talk to him. That's me. Like,
Yeah.
I was just like pretending like I was like that I had somebody that I had to like get permission to change my article from, you know. And anyway, so I was like, but you know, I hope this has a good ending for you. You know, I understand your concern and so on and so forth. Anyway, I think we made some changes to it, but he wasn't satisfied. But then the guy does something again. You know, the second case, because there were actually 3 incidents involving 4 women. Anyway, this was the second time around.
Christ, what a guy.
And because they let him loose on the street right away. Like, he assaults 2 women, and then they let him loose right away. But he has to stay in Taiwan, too, for like 6 months to wait for his trial. I mean, what the hell is that? You know, it's totally crazy. Anyway, so I'm just deport the person, you know, why you got, anyway. So the second thing happens, and then he contacts us again. He tries to come in, but this time we told the security guards, don't just let any foreigner in, because before they were just kind of like, they would only block Taiwanese, but if it was a foreigner, they just assume, oh, just let them waltz in. And I said, no, not all foreigners are good and safe. Like, if we don't know them, have them call us first. Don't have them come up right away. And so they wouldn't let him up, but then he was constantly trying to con them into letting him up. And they were tired of dealing with him. Like, just let him up. Come on, just let him up. I'm like, no, that's your job. You're security guards. You got to keep him down there. He was there for over an hour, so we called the police. And then he kind of conned the police into like kind of listening to his story. And so the police were like, kind of made a deal with him. And the police were saying, well, even though all the media was like using his name and his face and stuff, they said, and it's not a law that you can't do that, but they said, well, we try to follow the Western media model, so don't use his full name and you know, keep his face blurred, that sort of thing. And we're like, okay, sure. So we did it, but he kept contacting us again because we still used like one name, like I think his first name or something, and we had his face, but it was completely blurred. But he wanted that down too. You know?
Yeah.
He kept harassing, and he harassed and he harassed. He would call, he would email, he tried to get us through Facebook. It was just constant harassment. Then he gets arrested for the 3rd time.
Yeah.
And we said the gloves are off now. And I wrote it very clearly in Taiwan News exactly what happened, blow by blow, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And said, you know, this person tried to intimidate Taiwan News. He's trying to intimidate this rider. Normally, we only list their first name. If it's a foreigner, their first name. Don't show their face. But because of what he's done and because he's already been prosecuted for his third offense, we are rescinding that courtesy. That's the only time we've had to do that.
Yeah.
Because it went so far. He was so. And you know what? And then we were talking about, oh, gee, well, where is he now? Well, we know that he got out of Taiwan finally because he contacted us from overseas. And he said, well, see, I had this mental problem, and my parents were helping me out, and now I'm trying to find a job, and I'm afraid that my employers will see what I've done, and so do you think you could take it down? And like, no, we're not going to take it down.
Yeah, so that's the...
Because we're trying to protect the public from this person. Like, this is where I'm coming from, where we're coming from with this.
Yeah, exactly.
Society, and so they need to know what he did.
Exactly. So that's not the only time you guys had an interesting story there with involving police, right? The other time you guys were directly involved with a CIB, the Criminal Investigation Bureau. Is that right? Well, let's keep the audience hanging a little bit about that CIB story. Let's get out of the car. We're here at Mayor Indian Kitchen number 6. We're going to go have a little bit of a snack there and a little bit of a chat. So, guys, get ready with your questions. We'll be taking your questions for Mr. Keoni Everington in just a few minutes when we get out of the car. So, why don't you and Joseph go ahead and get out of the car, and I'll explain to the audience exactly what we're going to be doing here. So, guys, right now we're getting out of the car. We're going to Mayor Indian Kitchen number 6. So the reason we're here at Mayor Indian Kitchen today is because it's an awesome restaurant here in Taipei, and they have offered their restaurant for us to use to have a chat with our guests. So that's what we're going to be doing here today. And also, next week, you guys can be in for quite a show because we will be having the owner of Mayor Indian Kitchen, Mayor himself, will be sitting with us in this car having a chat. So come on by and check that out next week, Thursday. Right now, we want to hear your questions for Keoni Everington. So drop us some questions. Let us know what you want to know from Keoni, and then we will be asking him those questions in just a minute. We've already received a couple of good questions here from you guys. So please keep dropping those questions for us, and we're going to be getting into them in just a minute. So thank you very much for joining us today. I hope you guys are enjoying it so far. We're just getting ready to get out of the car here and talk about the last little bit of and have another chat. So give me a little bit of a leeway as I get out of this car. I'm going to leave you guys hanging for just a second.
Alright there guys, so I'm gonna take over a little bit. Let me untangle all these cables. So, sorry the microphone got in the way. Now we are at Mayor's kitchen, Mayor Indian Kitchen. This is the 6th location that he's got. He's got quite a few. He's got 7 of them. And then, yeah, here we are. Like, do you want to show the place a little bit?
Yeah, we're going to show you guys exactly what this place looks like. Let's take a look.
I'm going to sit down with Keone. I'm going to make sure that everything's fine with the car.
All right, here we go, guys. Mayor Indian Kitchen number 6.
Mr. Joseph.
Yeah. All right, let's take a look, guys. Here we go. Check out the awesome decor they've got here. This place is open pretty late. This one is open until 12 o'clock. Is that right, sir?
12 o'clock for weekdays, and for weekend it will be open till 3 in the morning.
Oh, it's open until 3 in the morning on weekdays and 12 o'clock during the week. So you guys can come here and get yourself some late night Indian snack, or maybe have some awesome drink.
Yeah, drinks and shisha as well.
Drinks and shisha as well. There you go, guys.
We serve Indian food till 3 in the morning on weekends as well.
Wow. Also Indian food until 3 in the morning. So if you guys are looking for a late night snack, this is definitely the place to come on a weekend. Thank you very much. Let's go and take a look inside. Wow, look at this glass kitchen. You can see everything.
Is there like a slightly less loud?
No, we're just gonna sit down here. All right, guys, we're gonna be sitting right here.
I wonder what the sound is like.
Check it out. Here we go. This is the bar area right here. You guys can see everything. You want a drink? They've got every kind of drink you can ask for. All right. Can you guys tell us a little bit? Is there anything special you guys would recommend if anybody wants to buy something?
Like in a bar or in a food?
Bar. Let's talk about
In the bar, like we have some classic cocktail and whatever the guest want, we can make them for you. And we have some like surprise drink for them as well.
Are there any special Indian cocktails?
No, there is nothing like nothing such cocktail, but I can make it them for you.
Oh, okay, awesome. So basically, you guys can get anything you want from here, and they're gonna be pretty happy to help you guys make it. Again, you guys are open until 3 a.m. on weekends and 12 on weekdays, right? Yeah, all right. And check that out. We've got some authentic Indian food made by some authentic Indian chefs. Yes.
We've got clay oven and everything here.
Look, they've got the clay ovens and everything here. So if you guys are looking for some good, authentic Indian food, this is...
You buy the what?
All the equipment is from Indian. It's
Authentic
genuine.
Indian stuff. Yeah, nice.
All the spices are imported and everything.
Well done. Okay, so anything else? I think what we're gonna do, since the lighting is like very good here, we're gonna just go outside and
Yeah,
set
we're gonna.
ourselves.
Okay, guys, we're gonna go back outside and we're gonna.
get we're gonna get some meals for us.
Awesome. All right. Awesome. All right, here we are back outside.
Oh, this is nice.
Yeah, we're gonna take a seat.
Where do I sit? Right here, okay. Great.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, well, I'm gonna sit by the big man. Here we go. I'm gonna look smaller.
All right, so guys, what are those questions? I haven't seen any questions. Drop us some questions right now.
I
We've
should
already
mention
got some questions.
That
Yeah.
This is an Ame vest, custom made in Hualien, this summer when I visited Oren Hoopman. So I know he's watching right now.
Hey, are you
So,
are you watching?
yo.
Drop us a line if you're watching.
I know he's out there.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, so he wanted me to sport this, so because I'm really interested in Aboriginal culture. So
And I don't mean to pry, but aren't you also part Native American?
well, actually, that's right. I'm actually I'm a little bit of everything. In Hawaii, we say hapa. It means you're mixed.
Yeah.
And so my mom is Caucasian,
Yeah.
mostly Northern European, English, Irish, a little bit of German and French.
Yeah.
But on my father's side, it's a mixture of Hawaiian and Chinese, and even a little bit of Native American too, and Eastern European, a kind of mixture of everything. But there's the Hawaiian part is kind of where I kind of relate to the Aboriginal people,
Yeah.
because we now know that the language and even now the DNA we see actually came from Taiwan. Like the Austronesian languages started here, and the Austronesian people started here. So in essence, Hawaiian people originated from Taiwan. I never imagined that, but actually it turns out it's kind of going back to my roots in a really distant way. But the fascinating thing is that some of the language pieces are still the same. So for example, the number 5 in Ame is Lima. And in Hawaii, it's Elima. But I mean, they add a little A in front of it, but anyway, it's still Lima.
Yeah.
And Indonesia is Lima, and Malaysia is Lima, Philippines is Lima. That tells you it's obvious that this was the same language family, you know. And there's a lot of words like that.
Yeah, in New Zealand, the Aboriginals in New Zealand have a similar situation. They share a lot of ancestry with Taiwan. So, have you got some questions for us?
Yeah, there is one question from friend Clarence Trumbull Lovegood. Would you consider yourselves us in Taiwan news more as a tabloid or a broadsheet?
Broadsheet. We don't consider ourselves tabloid at all. I mean, that's just kind of what some people label us inaccurately. We're not covering gossip. We're not actually doing sensational stories because it's actual fact-based stories. We don't cover gossip like we could, but we don't want to go there. We don't cover gossip. We don't cover celebrities, and we don't cover zhengmei, which is like the beauty of the day kind of thing. You know, this, oh, look at this gorgeous, this, and a lot of times it might be like an AV star or something, but I mean, anyway, this beautiful woman because she's beautiful. Yeah. Now we don't do that.
There's no lady of the day or something like that, right?
There isn't any gossips really. If you like look at some Western style tabloids, there's a lot of gossips, there's a lot of, you know, stars and that. I haven't seen anything like that in Taiwan news.
Right,
so
right. We're not covering
that's the answer right
celebrities or gossip.
Maybe what makes most people think that you guys maybe tabloid-esque are some of the articles that you put out. But then what we talked about earlier was that the top 10 articles, most of the time, guys, the top 10 articles, the articles you guys click on are usually stuff like cousin wife, you know, the guy who has his cousin as a wife. That was a top story for a reason, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of the time stuff like that gets the clicks, gets the views, right?
It's not what we're writing the whole time. Yeah. Like that was the, that's one of those is like my 6th article of the day. I'm just like, this is kind of quirky little story. I'll just throw this in there. Little do I know, it ends up getting 80,000 views or something like that. A lot of times it's those kind of things. But we don't stop covering hard news, you know, all different kinds of news. We cover everything, but just those kind of things tend to surface. And what happens is people see it on social media, and that's by design, by social media design. As the Facebook algorithm is showing people what they really want to look at. Sorry, folks, but that's what, like, people are actually, that knows you better than you know yourself. And then people are just, they feel guilty and they feel, you know, oh gosh, I can't believe this is so popular. But they're looking at it and they're talking about it, you know. Yeah. And and that fans the flames, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And so, you know, we just try to balance it where, you know, we do those sort of stories, but then we cover a whole lot of other stuff. And that's what I always tell people, you know, yeah, I do some of those lighthearted stories, but like I said, I'm doing like 5 or 6 a day. If you look at the other stories, there are other, like, just more conventional things. Yeah. You know, it's just they don't end up percolating to the top in their Facebook feed. And so it's the stuff in their Facebook feed, they assume that's the only things I write and the only things that Taiwan News writes, when actually it's not the case. Because you can go through the website and you can see there's a lot of serious stories every single day on every single topic. I defy people to like choose anything that major that we didn't cover. We pretty much covered everything that you can possibly cover in Taiwan. You know?
Taiwan's not the biggest country in the world, so like you're not going to get that much news. Yeah,
that's right. And you know, this one Taiwanese person asked me, and I said, I work at Taiwan News. Taiwan has news? I was like, yeah, you got me there. Because it's not, right, it's not always like massive thing. But for this little island, there actually are some pretty crazy things that happen. Yeah. We had the, you know, the horrific earthquake. We had this horrendous train crash, right? That captured the imagination of the world. And, you know, we have these super typhoons that are actually bigger than the typhoons that are devastating the U.S. Yeah. You know, so we have a lot of actually crazy stuff that happens, even though it's not a very big country. You know, so usually we have a lot to cover every day. It's rare that we say, "What do we write about today?" That's rare. It's actually pretty rare.
So we got another question here. What is the most exciting part of your job? Thanks for the question, Stig, but what is your most exciting part of it?
Oh, cheers. What do we got here? Okay.
Cheers.
This is just a wall strip, but our Indian tea is on the way, so that's
wonderful. Okay.
We're going to toast on that.
The exciting thing, I think it's just kind of what I just said was the breaking news when something crazy happens. That's exciting because you get an incredible adrenaline rush. Yeah. I mean, I think the thing about news that's really sucks you in and it's hard to get out is the adrenaline rush. And we become adrenaline junkies And we're real intense, every day, writing stuff, and some of these things write themselves because they're so wild, huge, crazy, like the earthquake, the Yonghe murder thing. That is just a crazy story, and it is definitely the craziest murder case among Westerners, I think, that's happened in Taiwan in memory. Like, I don't know anybody can think of a crazier murder story, at least in the past decade or maybe more, than that story, and all the layers to it. That's really, I don't know, it's actually kind of fun and exciting, a little bit scary sometimes too.
Yeah, exactly. When talking about that murder story in particular, you told us a little bit about how the reaction from the foreigners was huge compared to what you guys usually see online.
Sure. Because by design, the people involved in this, many of them were drug dealers, and they insinuate themselves in the foreign community because they're trying to build their market.
Yeah.
And so everyone knew, especially the victim. So many people I knew, I never knew him, but I looked at my Facebook friends early on, and I saw several Facebook friends, mutual Facebook friends, and I asked them, how did you know this guy? And they said, well, some of them knew him actually kind of well. Some of them met him at a party, others on Facebook. So it was a mixture of ways that he met different people, and he'd been in for 10 years. But I also met people that knew the alleged murderers, the alleged accomplice, and they contacted me off, behind the scenes, off the record, and I interviewed a lot of them. But I think it's the reason why it resonated with so many people is because they knew these people. It was a big hangout, the Triangle. Everybody hangs out at the Triangle,
Yeah. And talking about getting tips and news and making evidence and stuff like that. Oh, here's a perfect question, Michael. Michael, thank you very much. It says, do you ever get warned by the government, i.e. don't publish this? How about we get to that question in a bit, but we were just telling the audience before we got out of the car that something very interesting happened to you with the government in particular. In particular, the CIB, right?
Yes,
the Criminal
yes.
Investigation Bureau.
Actually, that answers the question.
Yeah,
To
it
answer
does.
that question, yes, that happened, and we're going to give a specific story. So what happened was, and we're talking about the Yonghe murder, and we were called out, like somebody called us out for being sensational, blah blah blah. Taiwan News is too sensational about the way they covered Yonghe murder. 2 days later, I broke the story about Oz getting caught, and I was the exclusive one, and I got the footage and everything. I was the first one to run that. That wasn't sensational. That was fact. They got the bad guy, and we were very satisfied about that. But after we got the bad guy, the informant, there was a little story about the informant that kind of helped finally break the case and catch the guy in the Philippines, because he was laying low in the Philippines. So I did a story about this informant that had been posted on other media, because it was breaking news. It was just fresh off, and it was okay. I think it was anyway, this other media outlet, I won't name names, and it was fresh. So when you do spot news, you report on what is known at the time, and so that's what I did. But then I get a call from the CIB. They said, take it down. I'm like, oh boy, and they said because the informant saw it in the Philippines. So they were looking at Taiwan News in the Philippines. They can't read Chinese, but they could read my articles because they're in English. So the articles are starting to spread around the world. In fact, the Jerusalem Post, a lot of the Israeli media covered it because the guy was Israeli American. Yeah. The Stars and Stripes covered it because one of the guys was a Marine. Yeah. And so anyway, they said take it down. And we're going to come to your office today. 4 o'clock. Why? Why are you coming to the office? And they didn't say. And it was like, and we're going to talk to you, Keoni Everington. Oh man.
Oh no.
That's scary. It's really scary. the CIB, was coming to. But we're like, why? And they say, no, we're not going to tell. No, they wouldn't tell us. Yeah. And so I'm getting pretty nervous because I had like a couple hours notice and I'm sweating bullets and I'm just thinking, what is this about? What have I done? Have I gone too far? And so they show up, a captain and one of the junior officers, and they have this bag with them, and they hand it to me and one of my colleagues, and then we look at each other like, what's that? What are you doing? What are you giving to us? We thought we were getting bribed. They're going to give us a bribe or for something. So first we thought they're going to like arrest me for sure, and then we're like, but they're going to like try to bribe us or something. And then they're like, no, it's just pineapple cakes. We're like, oh, okay, pineapple cakes. They're like,
some money stuck in him.
When people come, when Taiwanese people come to visit, they always bring gifts. We're like, okay. And so what do you guys want? And they're like, oh no, we want to, when we saw that story, we contacted Taipei Times to take it down. And Taipei Times said, we're not Taiwan News, that's another agency. And they're like, oh, what's that? Taiwan News, what? And they're like, yeah, it's this other agency, Taiwan News. And like, you can contact them, So that's how they found out about us. And then they realized how much I'd been covering their story, what their whole investigation. I've been covering the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
And they were really excited about that I've been giving them that much coverage, because this was like their masterpiece. And so they said, yeah, so we're going to give you, I'm going to give you my card. The captain gave me his card. This is my number. And I want you guys to contact us whenever you want to for information. And then you got any information, you can send it to us too. We just want to start a relationship. And so that was wonderful because from then on, I have this close relationship with them. And I get all kinds of leads on things constantly. They're constantly sending me stuff 24 hours a day. And, just today, I contacted them and I said, hey, you guys are busting like 800 gangsters. Can you send me some pictures of gangsters getting busted? And it's like, okay, yeah, we'll take a look, see what we got. And so when they brought Oz back to Taiwan, well, first they paraded him in the Philippines, and then they put him on the plane, and then he came into the airport here. They gave me all that footage, which is, at that point it become international news, because he's an American, he's Israeli, there was a Canadian, and there's all these different nationalities involved, and the story had spread over the world. So again, I was the first to break that with the footage of him getting taken away, and that because of the relationship with the CIB now. So we get to do that all the time now. We get all kinds of stuff from them, so it's great. But yeah, that was a case where they said take it down. We listen to them. What they tell us, we'll do it. But it's rare. It's very rare. It's not like China where it's more censorship. Yeah.
Yeah, okay guys, so on a more lightly positive note, we've been just served Indian tea. We've got 3 samosas. We're gonna get into them in a second. But then Matt Fulco, yeah, this is our food. Yeah, we were just served it.
Chai, huh?
Yeah.
Chai tea?
Chai, whatever they call it in India. It's just Indian tea, very nice tea, with some hibiscus and that. Matt Fulco, thank you very much for tuning in, and he had some a question, not very serious question. I want to know where he got that southern accent. I thought he was from Hawaii.
Because my mom is from Tennessee, and my dad is from Hawaii. So it's like a weird mixture, and I have a lot of family from the South. I'm not a Yankee. I never really lived any of my time in the northern U.S., except some time in Ohio. I did about 7 years in Ohio. But much of my life was in the South. Yeah, and so actually some of my Hawaiian relatives have also lived in the South for a long time. I have an uncle who spent a long time in North Carolina. He lives in L.A. He's lived in L.A. for like 30 years. He's got an incredible, thick North Carolina accent, this Hawaiian guy, if you can imagine it. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Yeah.
Michael Fanghauser says that Hawaii is a deep, deep South. And,
yeah, super deep, yeah.
Super deep. Guys, so,
Yeah.
okay, so if you just tuned in and you're asking me this question, where we are? Yeah, we are at Mayor Indian Kitchen number 6.
Your Indian kitchen number 6.
MIK6. If you just type in Google Maps MIK6, that's gonna come up. Wonderful restaurant. The owner has got several restaurants. He's got 7 restaurants in Taipei. All of them very good. All of them serve very, very good food. So if you want to come and enjoy yourself and have some very good quality Indian food, this is definitely one of the places you want to come to, or some other restaurants of him. Right, let's go to some other
Also, on a side note about Mayur Indian Kitchen, we will be interviewing Mayur himself, the owner of this chain of restaurants, next on Chatty Bao Bao in 2 weeks' time. So come join us for that.
Exactly. Don't forget that this time, Chatty Bao Bao doesn't happen every week. It happens every 2 weeks. That way we can bring a high-quality program and get ready for it and prepare everything that is necessary. Right, I just want to come back to a bit more serious question from Mike Fanhauser as well. Hold on, where was that? Actually, no, hold on. That was from Clarence Trumbull Lovegood. How do you respond to criticism of your reporting from your base audience?
How do I respond to criticism?
Yeah.
Well, I think I learned the best thing is to not really respond too much in public, because it just kind of never ends, because people just kind of like just keep, well, but blah blah blah, but blah blah blah, you know, and it just kind of becomes real negative. So what we do is, if it's a factual error, then we correct it, and we thank the person for pointing it out. If it's a typo, then we correct it. You know, thank them for pointing that out. We have copy editors like Oren Hoopman now to help us like make sure we have fewer of those. And you know, earlier I was doing so much of this stuff myself, so that's why it was kind of like, you know, the quality control was less than ideal. But we're getting much better there. I think we're getting a lot better with that now. And yeah, mostly I think the thing is we can't really engage too much with when it comes to criticism, because it tends to kind of just stay negative, unfortunately. So I think the main thing now is I just maybe try to engage in conversations, but once if it starts to go there, then I'll just have to disengage. I can't really get involved, because it just always leads in that kind of slippery slope, you know, where it just kind of becomes too negative. And that's kind of the nature of social media now. And there's a lot of people that they have certain issues, and they kind of take it out on people on social media, you know. And so I'm starting to get a feel for that better now. And so I just kind of dance away from it if they kind of go too far or too negative.
All right, we've got another question here. So they're asking, why does it seem that the reporting in Taiwan is unprofessional, or doesn't, like, just the reporting in general, not particularly Taiwan news per se, you guys, but the reporting in Taiwan seems to be sort of biased or unchecked.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's a cultural thing, and I think they don't have the background like in the U.S. of the tradition of having it being more. I mean, we're saying this, but if you look at American TV, it's pretty insane right now. I mean, if you're looking at like Fox News and now the other media outlets have to actually become very
Anti-Fox News, right?
well, they actually have to now actually become a lot more opinionated to counter what the president is saying to them, like criticizing them directly. So I don't, you know, it's like I can't really say that is the U.S. really that much better, but I guess that's like kind of one of those whataboutism arguments. So we should focus on Taiwan. So to focus on Taiwan, I mean, I think it's because it comes from a different background. You know, it was martial law here until what year, guys? What year martial law?
1986, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, like
First
80,
election was in
86.
1992, right?
Yeah, so it's still a young democracy, and the press has a much shorter history than what 76. Did we lose?
We're losing connection, man.
Did we get cut off? Back? Yeah. So, you know, that one newspaper was 1876, and it goes further act than that, in the U.S., right? I mean, Benjamin Franklin was an editor, right? A news editor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so he edited what's the line? Like, no, it was, we hold these truths to be self-evident or something, whatever. Like, that's like...
The Liberty Bell Press or something? Was that the name of the first, his first newspaper?
That sounds familiar. Something like that.
Right.
So the
I'm
point is,
not
it goes
sure.
all the way back to the founding of the United States is the point. I mean, the founding fathers, like some of them were editors of newspapers themselves,
Yeah.
But whereas Taiwan was much martial law, and there's still
Press didn't really exist until 30 years ago.
Just to be factual, guys, I made a mistake. It was 1987, 15th of July 1987 when
I was thinking 1987.
when the martial law was lifted in Taiwan. Sorry.
So I think it's a good important thing to put in perspective that way.
Yeah.
Now the media is struggling to survive,
Because nobody's watching TV or
Right, they don't watch TV.
reading the news, and also the point is that like when it comes to Taiwanese news, there's already so little news to begin with, and also
Right.
the pool of people you can actually tap in to watch news or to deliver news to in Taiwan is already very how to say, limited, right? Yeah, it's small. Yeah, it's like if you've only got 23 million people in a country and only about 1 million of them are from overseas, and then only about half of those people have English-speaking ability, then, and even not even good English-speaking ability, only about 200,000 people in Taiwan actually speak English. So to reach 2,000, 3,000 people with one post on Facebook or something, you've already reached 3-4% of the entire English-speaking population with that article,
Right.
So when someone asks us, "Oh, who are your demographic in Taiwan?" We have to say, personally, at Taiwan Observer, our biggest demographic are Filipino people themselves,
Right.
because Filipino people.
That's what I was gonna
That's
say.
why if you watch news trends in Taiwan, one of the trends you'll be seeing lately is mostly people from Philippines reading the news. So that's why there are so many Philippines-related articles.
That's right, and I was going to say that too. That of the foreign audience, actually the vast majority of foreigners are Southeast Asians. They are Filipinos, they are Vietnamese, and they are Indonesians. Those are the three major groups of foreigners. Americans are way down the list, and other Westerners are a very small group, very tiny group. That's why the Yonghua murders, it spread so fast, because it was such a small group of Westerners, and they're all in Taipei. Once you go to the other cities, there's people. There's foreigners, but I mean, Oren took me to Hualien, there's only 30, and they all hang out at this taco stand, and he took me to the taco stand, and he was he said he tried to found the, maybe he can chime in, but he tried to found the foreign association in Hualien, but it was so hard because there were so few people, and that's a lot of towns in Taiwan are like that. That's not unusual, I mean, Taipei is unusual to have that many Westerners, and even in Taipei it's not that many really. But the thing is that, like you said, Filipinos, Indonesians, Vietnamese, so we write a lot of articles that for them, because they're our major followers.
That's right, and
So-
English is still lingua franca. Most of Filipinos obviously speak English, but then Indonesians, Malaysians do speak English, but
Yeah.
Vietnamese, you wouldn't suspect them to speak English. But actually, when it comes to Taiwan, English language becomes the lingua franca, and this is how they communicate. So obviously, they read a lot of your news. David Stig Hansen, Keone has been here only since 4 years, so he obviously doesn't remember 1998 kidnapping. But
came
we've
here.
heard about this story.
I was here
You were
because
here,
I lived here in 1997.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. I first came here in 1997, and because I first came to China in 1994, and I lived in China. So we didn't talk about any of that, but I first came to Asia, and I first lived in China for a few years in Beijing, where I taught English and I studied Chinese at the People's University, then Tsinghua University. Then I came here, and I did the same thing. I taught English and I studied Chinese because I wanted to learn the traditional characters and see what Taiwan was like. And that kidnapping case happened right after I left. Like,
Right.
and but I know about it.
Yeah, there was
I've
a
heard about that thing.
documentary on
Yeah.
Channel 4 or BBC or one of the bigger Western outlets. They made like a documentary, and one of my friend's girlfriend or ex-wife was in that documentary as well. But talking about kidnapping, we kidnapped you.
Yep.
This is how our story started.
Yep.
But you're a kung fu master. You're a kung fu veteran.
Yep.
Can we reenact how you would actually protect yourself in real life?
I can show you.
Okay,
when
do you want to do that?
When you do that chokehold, how to get out of the chokehold.
All right, do you want to do that? I'm gonna go
Yeah. So.
Okay, so how about like I'm just gonna get this chair.
Oh,
here.
okay. This is gonna go.
And then
Okay, so
I-
you're gonna.
I know. Okay, so sorry guys. Okay, here I am behind him. Okay.
Yeah.
We've got benefit of actually seeing me there. But anyway, right, here I come.
Well, but I'm gonna feel it. Okay. Oh, you're doing that. Okay. Well, that's easy. Right away. I mean, it's like that. That was too easy.
Okay, one more time.
Do
Give me one more
like
chance.
this. All right.
Give me one more chance. I just stood up from a chair.
Yeah. Do like this way.
3, 2, 1.
Well, you're still not doing the choke. Do the choke. That's easy. What you did
Choke,
was too
yeah?
easy. Yeah, choke. That's what, yeah, like this.
Umbrella!
Bam, like that. Yeah.
Umbrella didn't help it.
A little demonstration of how Keone would have beat our asses if we.
Don't mess with Keone. Do not mess with Keone.
I don't know why they mess with me because I do martial arts, so that's always like, you're messing with a martial artist. I'm not a little guy either, so.
Look at that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not this little
170,
guy.
179.
I'm not this little like armchair warrior or whatever, you know, like I'm an actual warrior, so. I'm not afraid. If you guys want to bring it, let's bring it. Let's do it.
Okay, guys, let's plug in this restaurant for the end of thing.
Yeah, let's
So
do it.
one more time. This is Mayor Indian Restaurant, Mayor Indian Kitchen Restaurant, MIK6. Where's the address? This is right here. Look at our address. This is on Guanming Ilu 412. 412. Guanming Ilu 412.
That's the new restaurant.
That's the MIK7. Hold
That's
on.
the new restaurant, MIK7. It's opening up soon in Zhubei City. So you
Oh, hold on. Here I have all the restaurants. Okay, we are at MIK6, and this is Songjiang Road, number 1-on-1. Number 1-1, Songjiang Road, Taipei. And this is just across the road from the Guanhua Electronic Market.
Yes, Guanghua Electronics. People know that
Guanhua
place.
Electronics Market.
So yeah, guys, yeah, if you wanna get some quality Indian food, come here, enjoy yourself, have some good time. They close at 12 on the weekdays, 3 o'clock on the weekends. Come here and have a good fun. Right.
All right, that's it for today, guys. Thank you very much for joining us here. I've been Vincent. This has been Joseph.
Joseph.
And we've been interviewing Keoni Everington. Thank you very much for joining us here on the show today. We really appreciate you coming out, telling us a little bit about news in Taiwan and what you think about the situation here. So, all right, guys, having a little bit of fun. So, thank you very much again. Remember to catch us next week. Not next week, but in 2 weeks' time, when we are going to be talking to Mayor himself, the guy who owns all 7 of these restaurants here. So help us spread the word. Share the next show when it comes out. Thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate all of you guys coming out, saying hi, dropping your questions, watching what's going on. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Stig. All of you guys. Thank you very much for everything, and we hope to see you guys again in 2 weeks, November the 29th. So watch out, come and check us out, and we'll be happy to Have
a nice
you-
show again with you guys.
Yeah, have another show.
Have another show, and yeah, we're gonna introduce this guy that owns his restaurant. So that'll be very, very interesting. Totally different thing, totally different story, totally different life experiences. So make sure that you come and see us again. All right then, Taiwan Observer.
This has been Chatty Chatty Bow Bow, Taiwan Observer.
Ah!